Hey there, my friend. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. In just a moment, you're going to hear a powerful, inspiring, and very useful conversation between myself and one of our Fit Father program members, Brian Bohanna. Brian is 49 years young. He is knocking on the doors of the big 50 birthday. And earlier this year, in January 1st, like straight on New Year's Day, January 1, 2022, Brian made the decision that he wanted to really focus on his fitness. He had worked for many years to get his drinking under control and different kinds of addictions that he developed over years of just the busyness of life and running his business and raising his family. And he started to work on getting his addictions under control, particularly with alcohol. And he also committed to working on his fitness. And he joined our old school muscle building program, which is our muscle building plan that involves classic strength training lifts done in a way that's really easy and protective on your joints and your strength. And he started that program and he started the nutrition plan for old school muscle. And as Brian's going to show you and talk about in this conversation, he lost over 40 pounds. He got 6-pack abs, and then he started packing on muscle mass, and he's gained at least 6 pounds of lean muscle mass, but he's on his way to gaining 10, and he looks absolutely fantastic. And Brian did all of this inside of 9 months. And so now he's about to be 50 with 6-pack abs, big chest and arms. He's getting stronger in the gym. He feels so much more aligned with his life. And it's a really powerful conversation to hear what you can do in a short period of time when you get the right training plan, when you get focused and you get some structure to follow. So without further ado, let's get into this amazing conversation with Fit Father Brian Bohanna. And he's going to go over what he did to achieve these amazing results. We get into all the specifics of his routine. All right, Brian, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm so happy you're here. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everyone listening. You know, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about work and family.
Yeah, so name's Brian Bohanna. I'm approaching 50 years old in January. And I live in Fargo, North Dakota area. Originally from New Jersey, born and raised. I've been out in the Fargo area for about 10 years. I own my own IT consulting and security services company. I'm partnered with a couple guys, and we have a few employees, and we have a good breadth of clients that we service. Family, I have a wife of 23 years, been together for 28, and 2 wonderful children. Their ages are 33 and 29. God, I'm getting old. And we just had our first granddaughter back in January, so super excited about that. She's 8 months old now, and just a joy to be with.
Congratulations, Grandpa. Well, I think it's safe to say that you're currently in the best shape you've been in many years, but that wasn't always the case. So take us back to when you really started to get serious about your health and your fitness, or where you kind of feel like your recent part of your journey starts.
So I guess we'll go dial back about 10 years. Mm-hmm. When we first moved out to the Fargo area, I was kind of reevaluating life. Getting out of New Jersey was a huge, jump for us. We kind of were pioneering the area. We didn't know anybody out here. Mm-hmm. We just knew we wanted to get out of New Jersey and kind of into the Midwest. So we did that jump. My wife's an educator. She teaches high school chemistry, biology. So she had a pretty good, start, right, to kind of come out here, reciprocity and all that. So the job wasn't too bad. And at that time, I was weighing in probably close to 240 pounds. Mm-hmm. That was my height. That was my biggest level. I was heavy alcohol drinker, definitely an alcoholic by all stretch, by all means. And I was also a user of marijuana, so I wasn't in the right place in life as far as my physical health was concerned. But from a professional standpoint, I definitely was, my career was doing well. I was well educated. I was doing, the technology that I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed, the business I was in. I just wasn't paying attention to my physical self. Mm-hmm. So I made first leap back into staying fit. I was a swimmer in high school. I kind of carried that in through a few years after high school. But I never was really consistent with it, right? I was in the weight room, out of the weight room. Maybe I would do 3-4 months at a time, and then I would fall off the track and fall right back into weight gain and just, not being fit or healthy. I always I'm tall, so I always held my weight well, but, it never really felt good.
Yeah.
So, I hit the journey. I hit the ground running. I said, you know what, let me do this. And, I did it good for about, again, 8-9 months, right? Mm-hmm. That's as far as I made it. I lost, a bunch of weight, got myself below the 200 mark. I was in like the 190s. And then it just kind of fell off of it again. I found alcohol again, and continued to drink, right? So I've always had like kind of an on again, off again with alcohol, but never more than 6 months that would be off, right? And I would go back to drinking. My big drink was scotch and whiskey. So, that was, it was a daily thing for me. I never really would get, inebriated, but I would always have a drink 2, 3, a day, right? So definitely the liver wasn't doing so well, and so forth. So fast forward now, 9 years, I guess, at this point. Again, kind of just looking at where I was and how I felt. And I'm like, you know what? I really need to be serious about this. So I did, about 2.5 years ago, I did completely stop drinking. I went sober. I just did it on my own, got myself a little easy quit drinking app on my phone and said, you know what? I can do this. I got the willpower I've done in the past. And I was good 2.5 years. I did not drink. Although I did nothing else. I didn't go swim. I didn't do anything physical fitness. I just stopped drinking. Now I did lose weight just because of that, but there really was no fitness behind it, right? Yeah. So that the health part wasn't there. And then, we found out that I was going to be a grandfather, right? I'm like, wow, this is great. So I was like, I'm going to celebrate, So I went and had a couple drinks with the family, and that started the cycle all over again, right? And then I said, you know what? 6 months, from June to right past Christmas, I was like, I got to stop. I know where this leads me. I know where this takes me. I need to get back on, the sober track. So I did. January 1st was, first day back into sobriety, and I've been sober since.
Nice.
At that same time, though, I was like, you know what? Let's just see how far I can take this. I've got 1 year until I'm 50 years old, and I want to go into my 50s looking and feeling the best I've ever felt in my life. And I'm hoping to take this journey for years to go, right? Because I now have new goals in mind. I have a new why in mind. I got my granddaughter, right? I have son and daughter that are doing well. I've lost 2 brothers and a father. Both my father and my brother to cancer, and the other brother was to an accident. And I was like, I need to focus on me, and I need to be healthy. And then I have another brother who is also struggling with weight. He's 350 plus range, right? And he's struggled his whole life with that. So I know where I can go, and I don't want to go there. So I said, let me get back into the water. I love swimming. That's always been my passion. It's kind of like a meditation for me. So I go into the water and I do my half hour. I get my mile in and I get out. Our local Y had a challenge where if you swim 50 miles in the pool, you get a t-shirt. So like, you know what? Let me do the 50-mile challenge. And now I'm on the 300-mile challenge, right? So nice. I reached the 50 mile and then I'm going to the 300-mile challenge. And at that time, I was like, I really want to get back into the weight room. I want to get kind of jacked and ripped. I see a lot of this stuff in the reels on the socials. And then I found you guys in the same respect. And I was like, let me try this. I've never bought into a formalized program, that kind of structured it for me, gave me, just a mantra to kind of hit every week. So I did that. I did Old School Muscle, and I got to tell you, it was life changing. Not only having that program and having that consistency, which I think is going to be the underlying thread of everything I do the rest of my life, is that consistency. It was the diet practice. It was the making sure that what you are bringing in is clean food. It's things that are it's wholesome. There's no processed stuff. Doing the intermittent fasting was big for me. And then I kind of mixed it up a little bit, using the program. And then instead of using traditional weights for the first, kind of like, guess maybe the first 6 weeks, I did nothing but resistance bands because I knew I was prone to injury. So I was like, you know what, let me do the resistance bands because I can do these same exercises, but I can do it without the free weight and the injury prone that comes with that. So I can build the strength back up. And I learned that through, more research and so forth. So I did that, and here I am, right? I'm now 8 months in the program. I've completed the OSM, phase 1, and I've kind of repeated it, right, before I go on to the next version of OSM. So yeah, I'm feeling great. I can tell you, everybody's noticing my physique now. I mean, I'm actually wearing clothes that I haven't worn in forever. The man boobs are almost gone. You know what I mean? Which is super exciting. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at.
That's a beautiful story and a heck of a journey. And you definitely have a powerful why now as a grandfather and a lot of things to look ahead, I want to ask, it's pretty interesting because many guys come on here and they lost weight using Fit Father 30X, these metabolic conditioning workouts and that structure curriculum. You're on here, you did old school muscle. You dialed in your nutrition and you lost, I mean, how much weight in total did you lose while you were building muscle and strength?
So I started at 210. And I jacked all the way back down to 163 was my lowest. And now I'm on kind of that journey up. I'm at 170 right now. Yeah. So I have effectively gained about 6 to 7 pounds of lean muscle in this process.
You lost about over 40 pounds.
Basically. Over 40 pounds, yeah. And I think, and I know that because I know, use the impedance monitor, right, for body fat. But as long as you use the same measuring tool every time, right, you typically can understand, that you're where you're at. And I got the needle when I started. I was at 23.5% body fat. I got it all the way down to 11.5% body fat on that same monitor. And now I'm consistently around 12%.
While gaining some muscle and size.
While gaining, exactly.
Nice. I mean, that's really what it's at. It's so good that you were able to get lean and now you can focus on getting strong. I'm curious, as you've rerun OSM, have you done more than just resistance bands? Did you get into like the full-blown free weights?
Yep.
And I'd love to know about some of your numbers. What are some of your strength numbers on some of your big lifts? And also let's talk about what lifts you've been doing and what's felt good for your body, and maybe some of the stuff you've learned about doing barbell exercises and dumbbell exercise heavy, basically at 50.
Yeah, so great points. The at 50 part, right? Because it definitely is a difference from when I was back in my 20s and 30s. One thing I've learned is that form and having those guidance that videos that you've provided, as well as watching other and reading as well, other form based instruction, is that's the key, and not trying to blast the weight, actually doing consistent, controlled of the weight, making sure that your reps are, like 6 seconds, 3 down, 3 up type of thing, right? Just making sure and breathing properly through the exercise. According to my weights though, I was probably, when I started out benching, I was in like the 135, 155 range. Now my workout range is 2.25, and I'm maxing at 255, which is, great. My overall best in my life, back when I was in my late 20s, was a 305 for 2, and I'm trying to head back there. If I can break that, it is. If I can break that 300 barrier again, I'll be super stoked. The one area I've never done much work in, which I think has been the key to my strength and my stamina, has been legs. Right. Yeah. I was always the guy to skip leg day. Right. So I always had this kind of pretty good chiseled upper body, with a little bit of, definition, and these sticks for legs underneath me. Right. And as a swimmer, it didn't really matter. Right. As long as I had something as a buoy, right, to kind of keep me moving, no big deal. And I always had big lats because of swimming. Right. So my back has always been well defined. But so concentrating a lot of effort on the legs, I think has been key. And kind of dial back a little bit, I actually suffered in my mid 20s or so a lumbar sprain that has been chronic since then. Throughout the years, I could go, maybe 6 months or 8 months, and then it would nail me again. And when I say it nails me, it lays me out for a week. I mean, I can't move. You're icing your back. You're doing whatever. You're seeking out all these different, remedies to try and get rid of the pain. And what I've learned is the reason why I've had those issues is because my core and my back have been so weak, right? And then through this process and concentrating on the legs, I've been able to really put a lot of effort into that core. Yeah. And I haven't had, I went through kind of what I call my wet noodle stage, right? Where I was dealing with the pain of that area, but it's completely subsided. I have no pain now in my back and my lumbar. And I attribute that a lot to the leg routines and mainly to deadlifts. Okay. Yeah. I never did deadlifts in my life. And now I'm, doing them consistently. I do them twice a week. Nice. And that's where I started out. And shamefully, I was doing, 95 pounds. That's where I started with deadlifts. And I sent a video to your one of your workers there of me doing my personal best. I hit 305 deadlift, right, for 2, and that was just insane. And now I'm doing that. I'm hitting that every time now, and I'm trying to add on more. So the goal is to hit the 400 mark, and then I'm happy, right?
For sure.
But I want to do at least 3 times a month.
Let's make it 405 so we can get all 4 plates on there. How about that?
Yeah, sounds great.
Good. Okay. That's really cool to hear, especially on your low back. I mean, I can't imagine how much better life's going to be for you in the future with not having recurrent back pain and having a strong trunk and core, which inevitably happens when you do these proper big lifts with the right kind of form. You need to learn how to brace your core. So that's a really great benefit. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, how is some of your experience of, I don't know, happiness, joy, emotions, maybe mindset, internal state changed as you've been training and being so focused on the physical? Has there been changes you've seen, like internal shifts?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing for me is that willingness and desire to better myself, and even in my career. I had gotten to a point in my career where I was like, well, I've done most of what I think I like to do here in this industry, being in the IT and security industry, and not really have any desire to kind of advance that, right? I'm doing my job. You kind of like, hamster in the wheel thing, right? Going to work, do your job, come home, and then, focus on other things. At that time was just, anything that would make me happy with drinking and such. Since I've been back in this, I'm now signed up for an additional training course to get me a new certification that I've, only dreamt about for probably the last 10 years. And now I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to hit a boot camp in a couple weeks and get that certification. And then that will advance my business that much further, right? Putting that time and effort into that will then allow me to offer additional services to my clients. And I think it's an expansion thing. And that's the other thing, putting more effort into the business has certainly been more focused. I'm more organized in that. Even my clients have recently, noticed more of a presence from me because I'm more engaged. So I think that's good as well. Sure.
That's great stuff for sure. And it's funny to me. It's just such a beautiful blessing when you get really focused on structured training and you're intentionally scheduling and doing hard things and pushing through resistance barriers and then seeing the progress that comes with that. It retrains the reward system in the brain. So inevitably that energy can be translated into other areas. And just general vitality, I'd say too, is great. When you're lifting and you feel strong, you often feel like you have more energy and vitality. Now, I want to get specific with you because I think a lot of guys would be interested to hear how you gained muscle and you lost fat. So I want to specifically into nutrition. Can you run us through a day, like an average day in your life of like what kinds of things are your go-to foods, and be as specific as you can? You wake up, you do this, water. This is some of your go-to meals. I'd love the whole shebang on the nutrition front.
Yeah. So I'm no longer doing the intermittent fasting. I went back to just standard 3 meals a day.
But you did when you started to lose weight. So maybe we start, can you describe that phase? And then maybe we'll go to what you're at now that you're leaner and you're trying to regain. So let's start with the weight loss plan and then we'll go to the muscle building.
So I immediately went into a 16-8 intermittent fast. So I had an 8-hour window to eat. So my day would start, I would start eating, I get up in the morning, just have a glass of water, right? And that was kind of where I start my day. I drink at least I'd say 2 quarts of water in the morning before I even had my first meal. First meal would come at 11 a.m., right? And that was typically your, let me, got it stationed right here at my desk.
Well, super fuel protein shake. Nice.
Absolutely, man. That was always my first, meal. And then I would couple that with my other supplements. I do take a optimal amino supplement on top of it. And then I just take a multivitamin, multi-mineral support, right? And then also my fish oil. Right. Those are kind of the things I've always integrated in my diet. I'm a big supplement guy. I always have been. And then my first meal usually, and it's, some people would say it's boring, but I kind of like the consistency of it. I would eat pretty much the same thing for my first 2 meals every day. Right. So I'd start out the morning with 4 eggs, half an avocado, right, and a piece of Ezekiel toast. That's it. That was my first meal.
Yeah. That's a good meal.
The other thing.
Did you toast the bread too? Do you like to toast it or no? Yeah. You toast the Ezekiel bread with some eggs and avocado. It is a good meal. Yeah. Like I've had that hundreds of times, so I understand why you ate it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it was easy. I knew it hit all my macros because that's the other thing I tried to do was dial in my macros pretty good. So I try to do a 40, I think it was a 40, 30, 30, right? Yep. So 40% protein, 40 of the fats, and then 30 fats and 30 carbs.
Yep.
Right. That was kind of where I put kind of all my buckets. And I used an app called Lose It, right? To track my calories. It's just like a FitPal or any of the other ones, right?
Yeah.
But I used that product and it helped me kind of just keep that track. And I can't stress that enough. Track everything you put into your mouth, right? And that way, where you're at every day. And you know where you can go and The other thing I really liked about your program is that the allowance that on lift days, right, you gave yourself those calories, those extra 500 calories, right?
Yep.
That was big. That was huge for me because trust me, I was hungry on those days, and that really helped out a lot. So then lunch would come along. I would say lunch. That was usually around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd usually hit either another protein shake or I'd do just something high protein. I wouldn't do too much of a carb thing. A lot of times it could just be like, some turkey lunch meat or, unfortunately, more eggs, right? Eggs has kind of been my staple, for my protein intake. Or I do just a piece of, pork or just something that's heavy protein and not anything else.
So you went lower carbohydrate for lunch too. You had a dialed in breakfast and lower carb protein rich food for lunch. Okay.
Yep. And that was just to keep the glycogen levels kind of low, so then my insulin uptake was better. By the time I hit my lifts, right, and I hit my workout. Now my workouts were always after work. I've never been a morning guy. I've tried and can't do it. Right, I'm more of a night guy. So,
but the after work slot works great. I mean, it's not about like what work. It's like that's a great time. You have your focused work day in your morning. You lift as a transition point in your day, which is really fun. And then you have big food afterwards. You have your night.
Exactly. Dinner. I would have a huge dinner.
So run us through that.
Yeah. So I go through my workout routine. Usually lasts me about an hour and a half, depending on what I was doing, whether it was cardio or my cardio and lift day. I would always do light cardio. I never did heavy cardio. And when I swim, it's more like walking in the water, right? I don't go hard out. I try and keep my heart rate. I got the watch to keep you, in tune to your heart rate. Try and keep the heart rate between 110 and 130, so you're in that fat burning zone.
Yeah, you're burning fat for sure. And for you as a good swimmer, I bet you're moving pretty nice, but you're kind of gliding through. For most of us, we'd be like probably 150, 160 beats per minute trying to keep up. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, in that mile, it takes me about a half hour, right? I'm in and out of the water. And it's a pretty good rate. It's not Olympic rate for any stretch of the imagination. But
is that swimming happening at the same time as your workouts? That's not a morning thing. That's happening like on a
same time. Yep.
Okay.
Same
So
thing.
this is your ritual Monday through Friday.
Yes.
You're going in and you're doing something active
every day.
And mentally, that's a slot that gets filled with something.
Yep.
That's an important
So Monday
detail.
through Friday. Yeah. Monday through Friday is I'm in the gym. I'm doing something, whether it's swimming or swimming and lifting. In the beginning, it was swimming every day. And then I eventually carved it back after about 3 months to just swim day, lift day, swim day, lift day, swim day, lift day, right? Kind of just breaking it up that. And then when I would finish my workout, I immediately go home and just, I'd have, at that point, I'd have like 1,500 or 1,800 calories available to me, and I would just enjoy myself, right?
Yeah.
I would, still keep within my macro, make sure it's clean eating, make sure it's wholesome foods, it's nothing processed, no chips, no.
So you ate
none of that
healthy
crap.
foods, but you didn't really worry about the amount, because there's no way that you're going to eat 1,500 calories of chicken breast or something like that. It'd be way too much food, right?
So I would always have the perfect plate, right? I would have, I would always have a heavy protein side. I'd have always a veggie. Make sure there was like a Brussels sprout or broccoli or peas or, not too many peas. I hate peas. String beans, something vegetable, something green on the plate. Right. And then my starch, I would never really do like pastas or anything like that. I would stick to rice or quinoa or, like really good grains, like protein based grains. That would be typically that. Or if I didn't have that, I'd go to the Ezekiel bread again. I just have a slice or two of that, throw on, maybe a little bit of butter or something, just to kind of give it some extra zing.
Sure.
And that was it. And then I've been probably for the last 8 months, I'd always have a snack right at the end of my window. So my window, is usually right around 8 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock was my window would end. I'd always have yogurt. I'd have yogurt with a fruit, like say, blueberries or blackberries or something like that.
That's nice. It gives you a little bit of that sweet palate, which I think you oftentimes enjoys for the finality, but it also has good protein for muscle building and fat loss too. If you tolerate dairy well, I mean, that's not a bad thing to have at night. Yeah.
Yep. And then, and I always use a Faye, just because there's zero sugar added. Right.
That's a good one.
And I would put in 1 tablespoon of honey. That's where I get my sweet. All right.
Nice.
And it actually helps me go to sleep. It was kind of like calming.
People say that honey at night is good for sleep, and you hear it consistently. It's got to have some effect.
Yeah. So, and that was my day for a solid. I see with the intermittent fasting, the first say 6 months. right?
How much were you losing weight every week? Like, what was the rate loss, and how did that kind of change or stay over time?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was quick. I was doing probably 5 to 6 pounds. In the first month, I lost about 25 pounds in the first month.
I mean, that's a good clip. And a lot of that was probably because you were dropping the carbs too, and just everything. Weight's getting out. You're obviously losing a lot of body fat in conjunction. Yeah.
Yep. And then it kind of tapered off where it was about a pound, maybe a little less than a pound a week. And I was consistent. I made sure I weighed myself at the same time every week. I wasn't one of those guys that got on the scale every day. Even though there is a scale available to me, I didn't use it. So and then I would also use the same scale and at the same time of the day to make sure that I was trying to be as consistent, because I have one of those impedance scales that measured the body fat. It allowed me to see my body fat go from, I think it was like 23% down to that, 11.5. And now I hover around 12% all the time. My goal is to get into that sub 10 at some point. And I think I'm going to wait until probably December to start a cut phase. Because I want to kind of like, I guess my big goal here is on my 50th birthday is to do a photo shoot. This is me.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be crazy, because even in the photos that we have and we've shared on the video, once everyone's seeing this, you have a 6-pack abs in those low 10s. Yep. I mean, I'm sure you could probably want a better 6-pack than you have, but in my book, you got 6-pack abs, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's super exciting. I find myself kind of just putting my hand on my gut quite often, going, damn, I can feel those things.
Yeah. That's a cool feeling. And also, I think once you're there, it's going to be harder for you to drift off that mark. It's like, it's you feel good at this point. How are your strength numbers improving as you're losing weight at this clip? You lose the 40 pounds. How are the lifts going? Because you are in a calorie deficit, yet at the same time, you're also training hard. And I know you can build strength. And especially even some muscle, because we design those calorie pulses on those lifting days. So you have a chance to have a good anabolic effect. The calorie cycling aspect of old school muscle. You mentioned that. But let's talk about your strength as you're going through that.
Yeah. So strength was consistently, I would say for the most part, very consistent in its gains. Whether they were micro gains or not, I mean, they were consistent. Now, starting off using the resistance bands, it was hard to measure, but I can tell you I was moving up in the band themselves, right? So I would start off with they call it the green band, then go to the blue or the orange. They're just different levels of resistance for those.
Sure.
So I can remember specifically one of the most exciting days of my lift was, the idea was you had to do between 15 to 40 reps with a band.
Yeah.
All right. If you were doing 15, if you made 15, great, stick with that band. But if you did 40, you could do 40, then you need to move to the next band.
Yeah.
When I was doing my squats with the bands, moving from what they call the big band to the elite band with a specific guy, it was super exciting, because when I hit that 40 mark on that, that kind of that big band, I was like, holy shit, I'm actually getting strong here. I'm actually starting to see it. And then, my wife, matter of fact, it was like that next day, my wife said, you know what? I think your butt's growing. Like, that's awesome.
Nice.
So that really kind of gave me the pump. And then I went, and hit the elite band next. And it was hard, but I got the 15 reps, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gaining strength here. And then when I actually started hitting the actual weights, the free weights, I knew going into it that, I could probably start at some of my, when I was in my 30s, some of those kind of workout ranges. And I found out very quickly that, although I could lift them, I needed to step them back a little bit, right? Because I knew I was feeling more sore than I needed to feel, right? Still get that hypertrophy in the muscle. So I did that, and I got back into a good workout range, and then just consistently, I would say my bench, I'm gaining about 2 pounds every session.
Nice.
I'm throwing on an extra 2 or 2.5 pounds. Sometimes I get a little overzealous and I throw on some extra 10s, and I'm like, no, that was dumb. Take those off, put the other ones on. But it's been really good. And you mentioned the whole calorie deficit. I would say in the beginning, my calorie range, for my BMR, they said was like, you use those BMR calculators and you kind of scratch your head, like, how the hell did they fucking figure that out? They said it was like 1,600 calories. I'm like, nah. So I took it to 1,800 calories as my base. And then I had the extra 500, on lift days.
From exercise.
And even at the extra 500, I was still in a slight calorie deficit, right? So I would at least 100 calories in deficit based on a true BMR or, what I should have been eating. So right now my range, my BMR is 2,400 calories. And then on lift days, I'm hitting that almost, 3,000 calories. And I find it hard to eat that many calories. I just do. It's tough.
Yep. But it's really cool that also along this process, because you tracked so well, and the encouragement for many guys who are analytic, data oriented to track, because you've been doing so much learning on top of that data. I'm sure you have an intuitive sense of portion sizes now, how much stuff is in different kinds of things, and what a skill set that is. I think it's almost like speaking the language of nutrition macros.
Right.
You've gained a fluency in a particular kind of language while doing this process.
Agreed.
That's a subtle thing, but I think it's one of the big things for sustainability is you have this knowledge framework on top of all this.
Yeah. And one of the things is that it's kind of rubbing off a little bit on the people around me, right? Where they're paying attention to what I'm doing. Even my wife is like, so what do you think you got on your plate there? Right. And I would just kind of come up with a ballpark, and then she would get the calculator out and look at everything. She goes, you're within 50 calories here. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And then she's starting the journey as well. Right. She's just now starting the journey back, into fitness. And it's great when you have your spouse going with you, because we're empty nesters at this point, right? Our kids are adults, and we're just living our dream, in our 40s. So yeah, I mean, it's been great.
Have your kids seen you since this journey? I know they're at house, but what's it been like for them to see you go through this at this point? They're starting families and they're launching their careers, and you're empty nester, but now you've made a pretty profound change in a pretty short period of time. So what's it been like?
Agreed. My son, he's always been a big gym rat, right? He's this big. This kid is, he's got just arms like humongous, right? I envy his arms, and he's got, traps that are just like big old.
You gave him some of those genetics, though, I'd say. So, they're in there, they're coming out. But anyways, your son's a beast. So
he's a beast, yeah, exactly. And he's really excited for me, because I'll constantly send him, on messengers, pictures of my lifts and stuff like that. And he goes, man, that's awesome, So he's kind of in that journey with me. He lives here local, to us. My daughter, however, she lives in Colorado, and she's starting her family. But she's always been into fitness and just healthy lifestyle. She's a yoga instructor, and she's just big into that. So she's excited for me for sure. She definitely sees the changes. She's kind of cheering me on in the background. And I think obviously her life's been completely turned around with new baby, right? So it's all been more us focusing on them. Getting down there and going to see them. I know when I went to go down in June, this is if she hadn't seen me since the Christmas prior to me starting the whole journey, and she immediately just looked at me and goes, "Great job! You're doing really well." Yeah. So thank you, right? And I brought my resistance bands with me, so there I am, on our vacation, hanging out with them, and I'm out the back porch, doing my resistance band training, and she goes, that's the way to keep it up, man. Keep it consistent. Don't ever fall off that horse. And, I get to the point now where if I don't hit a workout, right, I literally feel lost. I'm like, I needed to hit that workout. I needed that in my life that day. Because, it kind of provides me that release, right? All those, that pent up, whatever I got going on for the day, I can just leave it in the gym. Right. Yeah. And that's where it stays, which is great.
That's beautiful. And I think it kind of comes very full circle to what you just shared when I'm thinking back on the idea of addiction. We have it running in my family too. Often we use these things as pressure release valves, escapism, stress relief, but it's you've just been able to slot in something that's so much more productive for all areas of your life, let alone positive for your neurochemistry and your body, and setting you up for more positive momentum. So I can see how this is a cornerstone of your life now. Something that you've now built this bedrock of fitness. And
I think the thing that I'll also mention, I haven't mentioned yet, is I'm running it by the numbers. Before I started this process, I went to the doctor, and I have a really, really good doctor. He's in tune with me, and he'll just make stuff up just so it passes through insurance. I probably won't say that online, but
just so we keep this out. If not, but I know what you mean. He's really in your corner, and
he's in my corner,
and what you need. Yeah.
Yeah, and he runs the test that I need run, right, to kind of see where I'm at. I wanted to see where all my base, vitamin levels were, where my testosterone level was, and so forth and so on. And I was, I had effectively low T coming into this. And
if you're open to sharing Do you have a number like that you
Absolutely.
can throw in the range?
Yeah. So when I started this, I was at 280 on my T levels.
Low T,
right?
for sure. So normal range for reference, people, you definitely want to be like 400 to 1,000 or something in there, in that range, roughly,
and then,
using US numbers.
Exactly. And then, fast forward 6 months, had it retested after I, got finished the first phase, of OSM, and I had hit 540.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. Nice. So knowing that, just changing my diet, getting active again, getting the muscles going again, that was telling my body, hey, you need more testosterone, and it started producing it again. So, and that's without any HRT, right? So that's huge. And
cool.
And I even, he even told me, he says, well, try the workout first. And then if that doesn't do it for you, then we can look at HRT. But I went back to him, he goes, no, you're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. He says, I bet you in another 6 months, you're going to come back here and you're going to be in the 600s easy.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, I'll hold you to that.
Nice.
So
that's great. It's really great that you also have an ally in terms of a good doc that's watching your back and you're getting numbers on that. So you're living up in Fargo. It's not always sunny all the time. What's your vitamin D solution as we come into the winter? And I want to talk about that also. Like my final questions here are like, I want to talk about your plan for the next rest of this year. We're kind of finishing up. We're recording this September 2022. We're coming into the holidays into a new season, coming up on 1 year from when you committed to Greater Health. So I'd like to know how you plan on finishing this year. And also let's talk about some seasonal stuff, what you think might be changing in your life as it gets cold up there in Fargo. I mean, you're enjoying probably some nice weather now, but we have someone on our team who lives up there. I know it gets a little frigid. So what's going on in the next couple months?
So starting the journey in January in Fargo, is you probably understand it. Anything about Fargo, it is just -20 for at least the entire month, right? So, good thing there's indoor pools, right? So that's where I would go to. So I'm not afraid of that weather coming.
You have indoor based routines, so you're going to be fine.
Everything's
nothing
indoor,
really
right?
changes. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as far as my supplements go, I'm a consistent vitamin D3 taker. I believe wholeheartedly in cellular, repair and regeneration that vitamin D provides you.
Yep.
In the summer, I only take, 5,000 IU a day.
Yep.
And then in the winters, I bump that to 10,000 IU a day.
Yeah.
And that's, because I am not in, outside as much, and I'm not getting in the sun exposure. And my D3 levels, are typically right around 100. In there, which is
fine. I mean, that's
plenty fine. Yeah, that's where it needs to be. And I can tell you, I do feel it if I don't take it. Some people say that's kind of placebo based, or I'm like, nah, yeah, I can actually feel it because, I believe that it keeps my soreness down, a lot. And I also take, a turmeric, just to kind of keep the inflammation.
Big fan of that, as you know from our program materials, as well as I think just for you too. Like I make sure you're getting a good source of magnesium. I know we throw some cacao and other things, but that'd be a helpful one for you as well. Yep.
And I think I'd probably get some of it in the super fuel.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I'll certainly look into that and see where my levels are. I always want to go to my doc first, get the blood work, and say, all right, where am I at today? Because you don't want to supplement when you don't need to.
Yeah, right? I'm with you on that. And just a little aside, because we're kind of talking about testing for minerals, the best place to test is actually the hair, not the blood. Because certain things are good to test in the blood, but certain things are moving out of the blood so quickly that the best indicator of long-term storage or something like minerals that your body stores up is that. And so, there are hair tests for minerals. I'm sure your doctor could run those as well.
Yeah.
But that's a rabbit hole. I'd love to ask you, a question we love to have in closing is, what does it mean to you to be a fit father? Now that you've gone through this experience and you've created your transformation, what does that mean to you?
It's kind of trite or cliche, but it means everything, right? That I can, share this journey with other fathers, with other people kind of that we're in where I'm at. The big thing is the addiction side, being able to, like you say, slot in something that's more healthy and more beneficial for life. I will say I do have an addictive personality. So maybe that's helped me in that now I'm addicted to, the gym, and I'm addicted to the results that I'm seeing. And continuing to now I'm actually seeing true results where I never got past that, I guess, that plateau that I would always fall off on. So breaking through that barrier and then moving forward and seeing, continued results and continued growth. I mean, I would love to one day see myself at that same, sub 12% body fat at 190 to 200 pounds. That would be epic, right? If I can get to that point in my life and doing it in my 50s. I would say to anybody that's, starting this journey or in the journey today or having doubts, surround yourself with like-minded people, surround yourself with people in that same energy. And you will make it through, because even if they don't actively try to pick you up and get you back on your path, just seeing their journey, right, is going to inspire and motivate you to continue on your journey. And that's what I think was the biggest thing for me at Fit Father, was being part of that Facebook group. Putting my, I didn't really share a lot, but I read a lot, right? And just reading the stories, reading, the testimonials, and seeing what other people have gone through and their successes, motivated me to continue on that track. And the few times I did share, I mean, the response was just overwhelming. They always say that the social media has that dopamine effect on the brain, when you do get that recognition. And it's absolutely true. It was like, I basically, when I would get all those responses, it was like having a couple glasses of scotch, because it felt that good to see, the support that was behind me.
Well, I mean, it's well-deserved, my friend. I mean,
Thank
when
you.
you post those things, you get the response because people are truly inspired by what you've been able to create.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your heart, your honesty, your hard work. And I wish you a couple amazing months ahead. And I'm excited, man, if you get to 12% body fat and you pack on another 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle, you got to come back on here. We got to get some updated photos. We got to talk about what it was like to pack on the next bit. And I fully believe it's possible for you. And thanks, Brian. I appreciate you a lot.
All right, man. Thank you.